Hey, Southeast Missouri sports fans. Enjoy the show and want to take it on the go? You can find every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or YouTube. Tune in as they air by searching SEMO Sports Zone wherever you may be listening. Welcome to SEMO Sports Zone presented by A-Corp Sports. David, Week 7's in the books, heading on to Week 8. What'd you think about this one?
There were some games that I was very surprised by the margin of score. I think pretty much everything that we talked about last week kind of happened, but I think the margin of a couple of these games was kind of surprising. But some teams are really kind of peaking at the right time here, and that's a good thing as you're heading into districts.
Yeah, winning conference play is. I mean, we kind of talked about this just in passing last week. Conference play does not feel like the biggest deal around this area, but it is notable when it happens.
Right.
Dexter won their conference, it's great for them. Do you feel like more emphasis needs to be placed on conference play, or do you think districts is what everybody looks at?
I think now the districts is kind of the focus. Now that the way the districts are set up, I think maybe 20, 30 years ago, I think it was more on the conferences themselves. But now the way the districts are with 6, 7, 8 teams in your district, and you kind of have a tournament format at the end. I think that's kind of the bigger thing that everybody's looking toward, because it's a little bit easier to win a district title than it was a long time ago, whenever you're on the point system that nobody understood. So I think that puts a little bit more emphasis. I think there's still emphasis on the conferences, but I think districts kind of have surpassed that.
I definitely think teams can, rest on their laurels when they win their conference. But like you said, district feels more like what a conference should be at that point. And I feel like if I went to anybody and was like, what conference is your school in? And be like, SEMO North, maybe. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, I'd like more clarification on who's in what, because I don't feel like it's a very easily accessed resource either.
No, there's not like a website that says, hey, this is your SEMO North, SEMO Central, and all that stuff. SEMO North has been the same for quite a while, but everybody else has kind of changed. Just a couple years ago, you had Kelly come into the SEMO Central, and so that kind of, and then of course Caruthersville dropped to the SEMO South. I mean, they have
took
these
away
changes.
That Caruthersville Dexter game from us,
right?
Never forget what they took from you.
Yeah, I know, and. Yeah, but it changes. It changes a lot in those other conferences. So the SEMO North is kind of your one that's kind of been the same for a long time. So but also it's also been dominated by Jackson now for what. A decade or more. So yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I think it still means something. I just don't know if it means as much as districts do anymore.
Well, let's go ahead and get on to Friday's scores. First game I've got up is New Madrid County Central at Malden, 42-8.
Yeah, New Madrid kind of went in and jumped on them 42-0 in the first half. Spread it around. Got a lot of different guys the ball, mostly just with the run game, trying to get their run game fixed, and it was kind of what we thought New Madrid was going to do. Malden, still struggling a little bit. They did get some points there in the second half, but New Madrid just kind of came out, took care of business. Yeah,
Jaden Williams scoring 3 touchdowns on the night. And we're going to be talking about players scoring at least 3 touchdowns on the night a lot.
Or more.
And, for New Madrid, great recovery. Coming off that loss to Kennett, you're kind of wondering where they're going to end up at the end of the season. I think, I hate to say the Malden's kind of the get-right game for a lot of people, but at the same time, it's, you need these kind of wins.
Yeah, they were needing to win after, it was kind of a disheartening loss last week because they fell behind, but they made such a good comeback, to tie that game, send it into overtime, and then ended up losing. This was just a nice win for New Madrid, just to kind of get things right, kind of work on some things they needed to work on and get them right. They've got a big game coming up here against their rival Sykeston this next week. So, this is one of those games that they kind of work on some things they needed to improve on.
And then speaking of Sykeston, we've got Sykeston at Jackson, 775.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this. Jackson's just heads or tails above, of everybody else in this area, and especially Sykeston. Sykeston, they've kind of owned Sykeston the last decade, and they're just better. Not to mention Sykeston, coming in with some things happened, in Sykeston over the week. people notice that I'm in a tie here. I'm heading to a funeral after this. It's been a difficult time for Sykes, and it was tough to get up for that game. And so it was just a really tough, really tough day and week for Sykeston. So it's just one of those you just move on to next week. And you had to play this game, and you knew kind of what was coming. And congratulations to Jackson, those 700 wins. They're the first program in Southeast Missouri to hit that number, and I think just one of the 5 or 6 in the state that have done that. So, congratulations to them, and they've got that program rolling.
Oh yeah, and they're going to be rolling for a while too. Their backups are also as good as their first string to their third string is a complete team.
Yeah, this is not something that's going to be just short lived. This has been rolling for a while, and this train's not coming off the tracks for a while. They've got things going the right way up there, and it's going to be a fun battle with them in Farmington here in the next few years, because I really think Eckley is going to get them on the right path up there as well. And I mean, he's already showing signs of it. So I think those two have some big meetings ahead.
Yeah, very drama filled at that point too.
Absolutely.
Moving on, we got Porterville Doniphan 53-21.
Man, Porterville, it seemed like once Porterville got that win, and things have just started clicking with them, and they look good. They look really good. They spread it around. They've got a lot of different guys. Hickenbottom had 3 touchdowns. Parker Babb had 2. The Warren brothers each had 1. I mean, they have a lot of different guys, a lot of weapons, and they used them all against Doniphan. Doniphan was doing everything they could to try to stay in that game, but just too many weapons for Portageville. And good for them. Doniphan hit a couple nice pass plays in the second half, but it was just too late. And just a really nice game from Portageville, who seems to have things rolling right now. Yeah,
I think for Portageville, I mean, I'm always kind of high on their football program, but I feel like you said, you start getting this clicking going, and it's working out for you. And maybe it's not as consistent as it has been in years past with different coaches, but at the same time, it's nice to see it getting rolling now rather than later.
Yeah, it was a little slow start there for them this year. Coach Bidwell just kind of getting his feet wet as well. And but man, once this thing started clicking, they've looked really good these last few weeks, and they've got the ability to make a run here in the Class 1 District 1, and we've talked about last week how that's going to be a battle in that district, and I think Portageville is just as good as anybody else in that district and has a very good chance to win it.
And then for Doniphan, I mean, what do you do to improve?
I mean, I honestly think that they are much improved from where they were a couple of years ago. Obviously, last year they played just a JV program. I mean, you're gonna have games that you're still building. And Saxony's finding the same thing out. You're still building. You're going to take some losses. It's just, but I think they're on the right path. They've got some good players there. They've got some younger players. I think they're going to be fine, and they've got a good coach in place there. I think Coach Hampton's going to have them, build that program. It's just going to take time. It's not going to be overnight. But they have 3 wins, which is more than they've had since they rebooted the program in 2018. And they've got a chance to win, get another win or 2 here before the end of the year. So maybe they get 4 or 5, which they haven't had since the 70s. So I really like where this program's at. I mean, I know it's a tough loss, but I think that this program is on the right path.
That's good to see. It's good to see Doniphan, hanging in there. Mm-hmm. Moving on, we've got Kelly at East Prairie 39-0.
Yeah, Kelly just took over on the ground. I watched a little bit of this game this morning, and Hiring, he had a great night. He had over 100 yards in the first half. They looked really good, and East Prairie just couldn't get anything going. Kelly dominated the line of scrimmage, and it was very, very kind of similar to what happened against East Prairie against Dexter. That Kelly just shut them down, and East Prairie just could not get anything really going. But Kelly looked good, and it was a good game for them to get right after a tough loss last week to Dexter.
Do you think there's anything that East Prairie can take away from this game and kind of move forward with it?
It's just strength. I think they got to get bigger and stronger. They've got a lot of younger guys, and they just need to continue to work in the weight room. Kelly's a little bit bigger and stronger, and it just kind of showed, especially on the offensive line, on offensive and defensive lines there. And it just, I think just getting stronger, and I think that's something that Coach Penrod knows that East Prairie needs to work on. And again, they're a program where they're taking some losses, but their program's in the right place. It's in the right hands with Coach Penrod, and it's one of those things where you're playing a lot of freshmen, and I mean, just what can you do except just play them, get them experienced, and then get them bigger and stronger in the offseason.
Yeah, and we've kind of talked about this every time we've had to bring it up, is that this was a very senior-laden team last year. And so Coach Penrod, I'm not going to say put it on autopilot, but at the same time, this is the first year you really have to take a look at your program and say, what do I have? How do I access the tools that I have to work with, and then kind of push forward with it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, last year you just kind of came in, you kind of work on building your culture because you know that you've got a lot of younger guys coming up. And I think he's done that. They play hard. I'm like, against Dexter, I was there for that game. And even though that game was out of hand, they played hard the entire game. And that's what you want to see out of a team. And they did the same thing against Kelly. They continued to play hard. And I think they're going to be just fine. Just some age, get them in the weight room, get them bigger and stronger. I think they'll be fine. In a couple of years, I think we're going to be talking about how good they are.
And then moving on, we've got Farmington and Cape Central 35-21.
Yeah, Farmington, a big win for them because it probably gets them in top seed for their districts. Cape Central, and they took a big lead here. They had a 14-0 lead and then just couldn't hold on to the football. And every time they turned it over, Farmington turned it into points. Farmington had a few turnovers themselves, but Cape Central couldn't do anything with it. They just kind of went flat on offense in the second half, and Farmington took advantage. It's just too many mistakes on Cape Central's part, and that's 3 straight losses for them and something that hadn't happened there in a few years. So you don't like seeing that, but a big win for Farmington. Like I said, that probably gets them second place in conference, and it'll get them probably that top seed in districts.
Which, I mean, for Cape at this point, there's corrections that have to be made. What do you do?
You got to cut out some of the penalties. You got to cut out the turnovers, and those are things that you can work on in practice and things. But it comes down to executing in the games, and they're just they just weren't executing in this game. And I know they've got a really good coaching staff there that's really going to get after them and try to get them right. But they've got another tough game coming up this week. They could be 4-4 here after starting the season 4-0, and you really don't want that, kind of limping into districts. And so, it's a big game, I think, coming up for them this next week. And they've just got to get rid of some of these mistakes.
Moving on, we've got Scott City at Charleston, 49-6.
This one surprised me. I think you picked Charleston maybe in this game.
I think I did.
This is, I'm not surprised that Scott City won, but I'm just surprised at the margin, and Charleston, they just turnovers, penalties, we'll be talking about that a lot, turnovers and penalties. Scott City took advantage. They just ran the ball down their throat, just dominated the line of scrimmage. And, Underwood had a great game, 178 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Gloth, he didn't have to throw it much, but they just kind of ran it down their throats, and Charleston couldn't stop it.
Yeah, and I mean, once you get a flow going, especially for Scott City, any team that's got a good running back that's very competitive in the way they play, it's going to be hard to stop them with that momentum.
Yeah.
Scott City, I feel like they are a team that's kind of feast or famine in some cases, but when you're feasting, you're feasting.
Yeah, and they look good. They had that slip up against Kelly, which is just unexplainable at this point because the way they've played since then, the way they kind of played before that, this is a really good football team, and that's just a surprising loss that they had there. But man, they're really clicking right now. That they've got that run game going, and they're tough to stop. And Charleston just could not get that ground game under control.
And then moving on, we've got Saxony Lutheran at Perryville, 42-56.
Defense optional in this one. Again, it's kind of the same story as Scott City. Perryville just ran it down their throats, and they couldn't stop it. I think Wheeler had about 250 yards and 5 touchdowns for Perryville. And he's a big, strong guy, tough to bring down, and Saxony just struggled bringing him down. McDowell, on the other hand, for Saxony, he had 5 touchdowns, 3 through the air, 2 on the ground. He's only a sophomore. He's going to be really, really good by his senior year. But this is a big game, big win for Perryville. I know that Perryville thinks that Saxony gets a lot of their kids. So this win, they think maybe some of these kids will go to Perryville instead of going down to Saxony. Who knows? Maybe we got a nice little rivalry brewing there. But this is Again, Saxony is able to score. They've got a good offense. They just have not found that defense that can stop a good running game. Well,
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, once they find that in the next couple of years, I feel like if they stay in Class 1, they're going to be one of the biggest threats in the area.
Yeah, I would absolutely. That's they could be on a collision course there with Hayti these next few years because Hayti's got a lot of young talent as well, and that you would think that they're going to be pretty good. So that's that could be a huge Class 1 rivalry that brewing there as well. But yeah, as long as Saxony's in Class 1, they're gonna, they have a chance to be really, really good, and even up to next year. I mean, this is just their first year of varsity football, and again, you talk about strength. We talk about strength, and I think they just need to get bigger and stronger, especially on the defensive side of the football, and they will in the offseason. They've got a good program going, so I think they're just going to get better. But Perryville just they were just too strong for them in this one.
And then speaking of Hayti, we've got Hayti at Crothersville 40-49.
Man, anytime these two teams play, it's fun. Hayti, they'd played some tough games, had some injuries, and you had the forfeit. You don't know what Hayti's kind of coming, and we know Crothersville's really good, and all of a sudden here comes Hayti, and Hayti gives them everything they want. They look like what we thought they were at the beginning of the year. Ford's back at quarterback there. He had a nice game. Payne had a nice game for him. I mean, they've got some athletes there, and they gave Crothersville everything they wanted. Crothersville has a guy named Sammy Bryant, though. I don't know why. I think we've talked about him once or twice on the show.
Yeah, yardage-wise, I think definitely over 200. More towards the upper 300s, I think.
368.
Yeah, and 7 touchdowns.
Yeah, 7 touchdowns. How would you like to have a 7 touchdown day? Yeah, and all year long I've kind of been saying, I think Parsons is probably going to be the favorite from Jackson for the Carr Trophy. You've got Turnbow from Dexter, who's really good. You've got Underwood from Scott City, who's really good. But you cannot leave out Sammy Bryant. No. Sammy Bryant's going to have something to say when it comes to that Carr Trophy and who they're giving it to, because he's just putting up numbers and big numbers. And 35 carries, 368 yards, and 7 touchdowns is what I heard. So, yeah, that's impressive. And Hayti just could not stop him, and it ended up being, that ended up being the game.
Yeah, and look, I've only got to see Sammy Bryant play once, kind of more in my realm, and that was against Sykeston. And I feel like he just does the same thing to every team, every way.
Yeah, big, strong, fast, and knows where to find the holes. That's a pretty good mix.
Goes by Sammy the Bull Bryant, and I think he's earned that name.
Yeah, absolutely. He's tough to bring down, and I'm glad I'm not out there trying to tackle him, because he's a tough one, and just a fun football game. A lot of points, not much defense, but you had a lot of athletes out there making a lot of athletic plays, and it was just a fun game. But Sammy Bryant, boy, he was just on a different level.
And then moving on, I've got Kennett at Dexter 0-56.
Another one that surprised me with the score. We talked about last week, and I thought Dexter would win the game, but I thought Kennett would give them a bit of a game, but Dexter's defense just shut them down. Their defense just keeps improving, and they just completely shut the passing game down. I mean, 5 interceptions, 2 pick sixes. That's impressive. Turnbow had a big game offensively. They look. That was probably the first good team they've played. Really, I mean, the first winning record anyway. And and they made a statement like, hey, we know that we haven't played the strongest of schedules, but when we get somebody good on our schedule, they rose to the occasion and looked really good doing it. So kudos to them. And for Kennett, I don't know. I was kind of surprised. I thought Kennett would put up a better game, but they just could not get on track offensively at all.
Yeah. Sorry. Listen, I don't know if Coach Jamerson's listening to this one or not, but at the same time, this is maybe the most oppressive Dexter team I've seen ever. It starts with your offense, but this defense, like when it gets clicking, and for Kennett at the same time, they looked kind of lost all night, it was strange. It was strange to see. But to watch Dexter's defense come out, show out the way they did, 5 picks, 2 of those pick sixes. Justice Lovelady had a night, and this is his first year playing football. Mm-hmm. It's pretty insane to watch. Whether this maintains with Park Hills, because that's going to be the next thing to talk about, that remains to be seen. But at the same time, I mean, if you played this way every single time, I don't know. I feel like this is a much better Dexter team than it was last year. It
could be. And I'm going to say one thing about this Dexter team that I've noticed over the last couple of years, especially this year, though. Their quarterbacks don't take hits. I watch a lot of these other teams, and their quarterbacks, just take a lot of hits. They scramble a lot. But for Dexter, that doesn't happen. I mean, they block very well. They get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly. And their quarterback just doesn't ever take hits. And that's just a credit to not only your players but your coaching staff as well. And I just have noticed that just watching this team this year, but just over the last few years, they really just don't take many hits. They don't have to scramble a lot. It's just they keep them pretty clean in that pocket, and that's just something that's when you can do that, your quarterback can make good decisions. You can run the plays that you need to run, and I think Dexter does that, and Dexter just continues to get better and better. Like you said, I mean, this team may be better than last year, but they just continue to get better.
And I mean, the only negatives I can look at from this game was Kennett. Like I said, they look lost, and they look lost pretty much everywhere. Offense, defense, special teams all had just things that were just like, these are just mistakes that cost you a game. Mm-hmm. And they started having them well into the first quarter. For Dexter, I mean, I'm going to point it out, even though it's probably not kind to point it out. There was a pick. They did get it right back after that, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not perfect, not yet.
Nobody is,
but mistakes are going to happen. But man, I was really surprised with Kennett. I really thought that they were, Coach Wyatt and stuff would have them ready to go, and they would be have a good game plan. And I think Dexter took them out of that game plan really quickly. And because I think Kennett knew that they were going to struggle running the ball with that front of Dexter, and if they weren't able to throw, then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And so I think Dexter just took away that passing game as well, and just completely shut him down. Just a great defensive effort for Dexter, and I was pretty impressed.
All right, Dave's dozen.
I'm ready. I got number 12. I've got Hayti back in there. Even though they lost, I thought they looked better. I think they've got some people back from injury, and I think they can really climb up this list. But I got them at number 12. I got Sykeston at number 11. They continually fall, and they've got a tough game coming up this week. Number 10, Kelly. I've got them at 10 after their win over East Prairie, and I've got Charleston falling to 9, and I've got them just right behind Portageville. And Portageville, I've got behind New Madrid. I've got New Madrid at number 7, and I'm keeping Kennett at 6 only because Kennett just beat New Madrid, so it's kind of tough to drop them down below them. Although those two teams are pretty even. I mean, obviously they played an overtime game. Scott City, I moved up to 5, and then the top four is the same. Cape Central at 4, Crothersville 3, Dexter 2, and Jackson again needs their own poll. I'll say that every week.
Listen, I think it's good that Scott City has finally moved up to the top 5. I feel like they probably earned that spot.
Yeah,
probably sooner, but
probably so. The Kelly game just kept sneaking in there,
yeah,
and
sure.
and honestly, I was looking back to last year as well. Whenever they were kind of up and down, and you just never knew what you were going to get. But Scott City's earned it. I mean, they just continue to get better, and they look good. And I tell you what, that matchup against Dexter in a couple of weeks is looking to be like it may be a fun one.
Here's hoping.
Yeah. We said that before. We really hope.
Let's talk about upcoming games. I've listed kind of the ones that I don't want to say they skip out on our purview of where teams are at, but these are the non-area matchups. Malden at Veritas Christian Academy.
Yeah, I mean, Malden got this win last year against Veritas. Now they've got to go up north and play them. I believe it's in O'Fallon. I'm gonna say Malden. Malden needs a win in the worst way. Malden needs something good to happen. I think this Veritas team is better than they were last year. Mm-hmm. They've got some wins this year, so I think they're better. I think it's going to be a lot closer game, but I'm going to go Malden because I think something good needs to happen for Malden.
Yeah, I mean, what else do you say? Is Malden needs this win. They got this one last year, but you are going up somewhere.
Yeah,
that's the only difference. Otherwise, I mean, hey, let's get this W.
Yeah.
Go Green Wave. Next up, I've got Marquette Catholic at Hayti.
I'm going to take Hayti in this one just because I think Hayti looked good against Crothersville. Mm-hmm. And, Marquette did beat Saxony a couple of weeks ago and looked pretty good doing it. But I think this is another one, maybe a high-scoring game. But I think I'm going to take Hayti being at home. I don't know why. I don't know much about Marquette Catholic, but Hayti I just think Hayti's got it rolling a little bit now. Got their parts back, and I think they have some big plays and can win this game.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is will Hayti wake up for this game? Against Crothersville. I mean, that's a rivalry game, so obviously they're going to wake up for that one. That's a big one too. But to play Crothersville, state-ranked Crothersville, that close, I think that's a great motivator. Can you continue that going forward?
Yeah, let's hope that's kind of what I'm banking on here. But I think Hayti needs this win. I think they're kind of tired of people talking about them. They had some tough games there. They had some tough injuries. I think I think they think that they're better than what people are saying they are. So I think they're trying to make some statements here going into district.
I can definitely see that. And, sometimes it does feel like Hayti kind of gets an unfair shake. But at the same time, you're dealing with injuries, you're dealing with canceled games, things like that. It's never easy to go through a full football schedule.
Right.
And then moving on, we've got Massac County at Saxony Lutheran.
Yeah, this was kind of a toss-up game for me. I don't know much about Massac County. I know they took it on the chin to Carterville, last night, and Carterville is good. I'm going to say Massac because Saxony struggled to stop the run, and I think Massac likes to run the ball. So I'll just say Massac. But this is the first game on Saxony's new field. On their own home field anyway. And so, good luck to them. I hope Saxony wins, but for picks purposes, I'm just going to say Massac. Maybe that'll motivate Saxony.
You know what? I'm going to go Saxony, just to add a disparaging voice. I don't know. And then, hey, go Crusaders.
Yeah. I know nothing about Massac, so I'm just throwing stuff out there. So,
and then up next, we got Crothersville at Portageville. Battle of the Vills.
Battle of the Vills, and I think Portageville's win streak comes to an end here. I think it's tough to stop Sammy Bryant, and I think Crothersville is primed and ready for this game. I'm not saying that Portageville can't hang with them because I believe they can, but I just think Crothersville is going to have too much Sammy Bryant in this one.
Yeah, I don't foresee Portageville. I mean, you're going to have to outscore them. That's how it's going to be, unless you make a very good defensive effort, and I just don't see that. I don't see that with any team. That's not a knock against Portageville. I feel like unless you've got a defensive masterclass, I just don't know how you stop Sammy Bryant. So unless you're just going to run with each other, and I mean, I've seen teams try to run with Crothersville, and Crothersville just outscores them.
Unless you're Valley. And that's a different, that's again, there's your masterclass you're talking about. So yeah. It's too much Sammy Bryant in that one, but it ought to be a fun game. I think it'll be a fun one.
Sure. But yeah, also taking Crothersville for that one. Miller Career Academy with Vashon and another school against Jackson.
The next victim on Jackson's list, and Jackson will again name their score, and they'll move to continue their perfect record and move on to getting close to districts. But I don't think this is much of a game. I think Jackson just rolls and just moves on.
I'd accuse you of shot calling, but I don't think you're wrong.
I don't at this point. I'm not thinking anybody can play with Jackson until they get into districts, maybe, and then in the playoffs. But I don't think this Miller can stay with them.
And I mean, the only purview I see for this matchup is, I mean, this is a St. Louis school or collection of schools at this point.
Yeah,
and I feel like those are wild cards, especially coming down here. But like you said, it's Jackson. It's Jackson, and it's probably one of the best Jackson teams I've ever seen. So.
Yeah, they named their score.
Okay. And then next up, I've got Kennett at Poplar Bluff.
This one, I really thought that this might be a Kennett game until I saw what happened against Dexter this week, and now I'm thinking Poplar Bluff. Maybe Kennett wasn't as good as what I thought they were, or maybe just Dexter's just really that good, and that could be very well it. But I really thought that Kennett would give Dexter more of a game, so I'm going to go Poplar Bluff in this one. Playing at home, Poplar Bluff is in need of a win. They barely got past Sykeston a couple weeks ago, so they're really needing a win here, and so I'm going to go Poplar Bluff. I'm
going to go Kennett. I'm going to say that that loss to Dexter was crushing, but I'm also going to say that it was maybe just a fluke crush. I don't know. It's one of those things. Like I said, I'm going to keep saying it. Kennett just looked lost. They looked like they got on the field and they didn't know where they were. And I think this is a good get right game if you can win it. And I feel like it's just time to kind of take account of everything that went wrong in that game and just kind of fix those mistakes.
Yeah. Last year, Poplar Bluff blew them out, and blew them out quick. It will not be that way this year. I don't. This is not going to be a 57-0 game for sure. But I think we'll see what Kennett's made of here. See how they rally and see what kind of game they play against Poplar Bluff.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen Ty Jones play good games, and I think he can do it again. I think just against Dexter, it was a different game.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It was I can't explain it.
And then moving on, we've got Sykeston at New Metric County Central.
This one could be a really good game because I think these two teams don't like each other. It's a pretty good rivalry. I think Sykes will be more in the right mind frame to play. With all that said, I'm taking New Madrid. They're playing at home. I think New Madrid, last year New Madrid had a big lead on Sykeston, and then things kind of got rolling in that second half for in the wrong way for New Madrid. They didn't handle it well. They kind of folded. This team seems to show a little more toughness, a little more resilience than that team did last year. So I like New Madrid in this one to kind of, I don't think they like getting beat last year the way they did. So I'm going to take New Madrid.
Once again, I think this comes down to defense. I've kind of seen Sykeston's defense kind of fall apart when it comes to high-scoring games. I think New Madrid's kind of popping off on their offense right now, especially if they make those big-time plays. They're right in there. Obviously, Sykeston can do it too. I've seen that when they get their passing game going, they get it going. I don't know. I'm gonna take Sykeston, but a very hesitant taking Sykeston. I'm gonna say it's probably by 6 points.
Yeah, I think it's a close game. I think they typically play kind of some close games here, especially at New Madrid, and so we'll see. But this is one of those games that could go either way.
Yeah, and I mean it's kind of live or die for the season at this point because these are the last two games. The last two games in these last 2 weeks are that's your window.
Yeah, and you wonder, Sykeston's been taking some pretty good losses here. And you kind of wonder what they have left in the tank, and this is going to be the game we find out.
And then moving on, I've got Dexter at Park Hills.
This one, these two teams I don't think like each other very much. I think they've.
I feel like you say that about a lot of teams in the area.
It's true about a lot of teams in the area. But I remember a little bit of chippiness, if I'm not mistaken, last year.
Yeah, and, a little bit of chippiness last year.
And I think they've had that some in the past. I think going up to Park Hills, that's never easy. I like Dexter in this game. I dare to say how close it's going to be because, apparently I thought the Kennett game was going to be a lot closer than what it was. But I do like Dexter in this game. But Park Hills is a good team, and they're very well coached, and they're going to have some toughness about them, and they're not going to want to be a Dexter team to come up there and put something on them. So I think it's a good football game. But I like Dexter in this, and that'll be a huge win for them in districts. These last 3 games for Dexter are really big for district seeding purposes. And you want to get this win and get the next win, not only for that, but then you can have your back-to-back perfect regular seasons, which they've never had in the school history. So a lot on the line here, I think, for Dexter. And I think Dexter comes ready to play.
I want Dexter to win this game. I'm also, there's something in the back of my mind, this twinge in the back of my mind that says any given Friday. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I'm at with it because I feel like everybody counted Park Hills out pretty quickly. They said, oh, they're down. It was that loss to St. Jen that kind of just spurred that comment on.
St. Jen's good, though.
But St. Jen's good. Mm-hmm. And so I got to think about that. And it's something there where it's like, okay, going up to Park Hills, that's nerve-wracking. Dexter plays their best game on their home field. Mm-hmm. If they can pull out what they did Friday, I think they win this game. There's something
Are you picking Park Hills?
I'm not. Okay. I'm not picking Park Hills.
You seem like you're.
But I'm not picking Dexter.
Oh,
I'm not picking anybody because I don't want to say what I think might happen.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to breathe it into existence. But I hope Dexter wins this game.
Okay. All right. I think I know what you're saying.
Moving on, Charleston at East Prairie.
Another rivalry game. Teams that don't like each other. These two teams don't like each other at all.
There's history of not liking each other.
There's a lot of history of these two programs not liking each other. Charleston dominates this series, and I think they'll win this one. They're just bigger, faster, stronger. And so I think they win this game, but I promise you it won't be because East Prairie's not fired up to play this game. This is, a big rivalry game, but I think Charleston just has too much.
Yeah, I think looking at the scores from Friday, I think these two teams are going to be playing some pissed off football, and I don't know what to expect from the score. I'm going to take Charleston, but I think it's going to be a mean affair.
Yeah. That's one thing you can guarantee that there may be a cheap shot or two at some point in this game, and they just come to expect it.
And then moving on, we've got Lutheran St. Charles at Kelly.
I don't know a ton about Lutheran St. Charles. I know that they've got some decent wins. I'm going to take Lutheran St. Charles because I think they're coming from up around St. Louis. Those teams typically come down here and play pretty well. And so I'm going to take them, but I honestly don't know much about them other than, looking at their schedule.
I'm going to say Kelly. I'm going to say Kelly just because they're coming off a win. They've got motivation to keep winning.
Yeah, that's one of those games. It's kind of tough because they've never played. I know Lutheran St. Charles won a state title a few years ago, and they looked really good. But since then, they've kind of fallen on. They're kind of building it back up. I don't know. But that's one of those games. Sure.
And then moving on, this is going to be the game that's on A-Corp Sports this week. Live for Life at Cape Central.
Cape needs to win in the worst way.
It sucks that that's coming up against Live for Life.
And you're right. And then you got to play Live for Life. And Live for Life gave them all they wanted last year, and Cape was able to pull it out. This year won't happen. I think Live for Life is better. I think Live for Life is just better than Cape Central is. I think Live for Life comes down and gets a win. Ask Dexter about Live for Life, and they'll tell you all about them. And I think this is a game that Cape can kind of hang in for a while, but I think by the end of the game, I think Live for Life pulls it out.
I think for Cape, I think this is a winnable game if you are on your toes.
Yeah,
I think you've got to bring out all the stops, and you've got to play your best ball. But I'm taking Live for Life in it. I don't know. I would like Cape to win this, but I just don't have that confidence right now.
Yeah, losing 3 straight, playing, turning the ball over, penalties, there's things that have been happening to them that doesn't lead me to think that they're going to play the way they're going to need to play against Live for Life. And this Live for Life team is pretty good. They've got 2 losses, but they were 2 losses against some very good teams. And I think they're number 2 in Class 3. And they're just tough. I saw them play against Dexter last year. I saw them play a couple of years ago against New Madrid. I mean, they always bring a good football team down, and I just think it's going to be too much for Cape.
Yeah, especially this year. I mean, I've seen Cape play some good games, but I've also seen them play some very close games that they should have blown the other team out.
Yeah. But I do think Cape can hang in this for a while. I do think that this should not be just a huge blowout. I don't think I think Cape's going to be able to hang in there long enough. And who knows? If you hang in long enough, maybe you make some plays at the end and pull an upset. But I just don't see it. I want to see it. I just don't.
Well, I mean, maybe we'll both be wrong. Who knows? You can catch that game live on A-Corp Sports coming this Friday at 7 p.m. David, I think that covers it for this week, though.
Yeah, it's been a busy week, and man, it's hard to believe we only got 2 more weeks left in the regular season. That's crazy to me. It just has flown by, but these districts are starting to line out a little bit, and we're getting there.
Yeah, 2 weeks of good regular season, and then we get to start back fresh with district play.
Yeah, everybody's 0-0 going in, and so that's it's a chance to get things right as if you've kind of been surging here at the end of the year. And I look at Hayti as somebody for that, Portageville again. And that's something that they can look to and be like, hey, that beginning of the year doesn't matter anymore.
Absolutely. All right, David, I think that's it for me. Any final thoughts?
Nope. I just can't believe it's this. We're winding down. It'll be a fun week coming up.
All right. This has been the SEMO Sports Zone. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.